right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Aimless Vidya Podcast. My name's Veracity, and I've got two lovely Elite Pro Gamer MLG 420 no scopes with me. Say hello, Aries.
Hello.
Say hello, Adcret.
Up.
All right, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We've got Bioware, Dice reaction to users who use color adjusting mod. Adcret7 is going to talk about Dishonored, Origin free game debacle, Steam big picture, Ubisoft, FIFA, Borderlands. Everything PC gaming is just going to be talked about in the next hour and change. Now, before going into our profile, I'm going to ask you each a question of the podcast, I guess we could call it. What is the world's worst DLC? And then I'll see who gets the points. Aries, would you like to start?
Oh, would I? Let's see. My friends have been playing this game called, I believe it's Asphalt 6. I'm just looking at a list of GameLoft games for the iPhone. And, he's been playing for quite a while, but the thing is, it's sort of a pay-to-win game, even though I believe it does have online, so you could consider it a pay-to-win game. But he said that there's just too much content in-game that you have to buy with real money to actually, do good in the game and advance well. And there's actually this one car, in whatever currency Gameloft uses, it was, I believe, 425 of that currency. And they, Gameloft would sell, like, little packages of it, as you would know, like, with any app, they would sell, like, packages of maybe, like, 1,000 or, like, 500.
Yeah.
And, he looked at the prices, and for 500, it cost $100. I was like, really? This is an iPhone game. Like, I thought he was crazy, so I looked at it myself, and then up to 500 points, it said $99.99. I was just completely shocked.
And this is for an app, essentially. Wow.
Yes, for an iPhone game.
What about you, Adcret? Real or imagine, what is your worst DLC?
Wow, I thought I had Aries beat, but I don't. Okay, I think it's actually kind of a toss-up. I think toss-up between two worst DLCs. One is the Call of Duty Black Ops Season Pass for DLC, which costs not $30, but around $50.
Ugh.
Oh my gosh.
$50 just so you can get the newest map packs for Black Ops 2. $50. This means that in addition to a $60 game, you have to drop $50, which means Black Ops 2 is really worth $110.
Oh my gosh, and those are for maps. Yeah, you might as well just go buy go buy Medal of Honor Warfighter. That's your map pack for $50.
Might as well.
Don't do that. Please don't do that.
and that's a toss up between the Max Payne 3 DLC season pass. And why is this bad? Well, this was $30, and they seem to have really have no DLC for it planned. I mean, some DLC came out recently, but this is after a long period of them not making DLC for the season pass. So it's like, well, why is this season pass here if you're not going to make DLC for it?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Plus, I mean, Max Payne. Why do you have a multiplayer? That's like a
exactly
single player game. Oh well, I'm gonna take it in a different direction. My DLC doesn't exist, but it's something that I would love to see in games. If I ever design a game, I'm definitely gonna implement this just to mess with players, just to fuck around a bit. It's gonna be a great fantasy game. You're on top of a volcano, slaying a dragon with a unicorn, with rainbows in the sky, and the only piece of DLC that's gonna be in this game is to buy shoes, and that's all it's gonna be. It's gonna be $15 to buy shoes, and I guarantee you, I'll make a bundle. You can imagine yourself, you got like a full set of heavy plated armor. You look down, you see these disgusting, hairy little white feet walking around. Instantly, everyone's going to want to buy that DLC. They're going to say, well, this is horrible. I'm completely taken out of the game with this. So, yeah, my worst DLC is shoes.
Very unique, Dan.
No, but I'm going to have to say, I think Aries definitely gets the points. For a $100 DLC on an iPad app, yeah, you can't beat that. Wow.
Ugh.
Alright. You guys want to jump straight into it?
Sure.
Let's do this.
Let's do it. So, Bioware founders leaving. As you guys probably know, you've got two heavy hitters in the industry, Ray Muzica and Greg Zeschuk. After 17 years of supervising some of the most well-known RPGs on the PC, including Dragon Age, Mass Effect, and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Alright, that's huge. And they're gone. What do you guys think? Just basic instinct for right now, and then we'll go over some quotes. Because these guys are, some heavy hitters who are gone now.
Well, I feel that, they're almost scapegoating the audience, because in one of their quotes they basically say that it's basically the fans' fault that they're leaving because of a lot of negativity, but it's really just them scapegoating, because one, Mass Effect 3 failed because, it's their fault, they did the endings and all. The Old
Yeah.
Republic failed because, it was their fault, it's all their fault, but they're just going to scapegoat the fans and say, oh, well, they're negative about it. Sorry, but if you make a bad game, you're just going to have negative people about it.
Yeah, you're responsible for the end product. No, I completely agree. Couple
Eric,
interesting quotes. This is from Zika. I feel the need to move on to a new chapter in my career. With the growth of Bioware to multiple locations as part of a public company, following 2 decades of multiple successful product launches across many platforms and business model, I've largely personally achieved what I want in video games. I now desire to take on a brand new entrepreneurial challenge. More than just kind of negative fan reaction, they just seem burnt out, which is weird because these guys arguably could have gone on to anything in the industry. They've got, these guys are heavy hitters. It's kind of strange for them just to be saying, "I'm done," I'm bored of it. I've done everything I can.
well, I think it's because, and, I feel it's kind of because of EA, EA basically takes any publisher they have and basically uses and abuses them. And I feel that's kind of what happened to them,
Yeah. And kind of an interesting side note, Zeshik's future project entails, well, craft beer industry with a web-based interview show called The Beer Diaries. Okay, I mean, yeah, all power to him. Sounds like a nice little side hobby, but yeah, I mean, the industry's worse off for not having these guys. All right, let's move on to our second point of conversation. This one was pretty big and it's still ongoing. DICE reaction to users who use color adjusting mods. First off, I just want to go through the line. What do you guys think about color adjusting mods? Aries, do you think it improves the game, makes it worse, harder for competition, or is it a mod that should be allowed?
I think it's really just all up to opinion. I mean, people feel like using the mod as long as it doesn't really improve their performance. I'm not sure how it necessarily would, but I guess just depending on the impact of it, it's I guess just up to the discretion of the game devs.
Yeah, I agree. What about you, Adkret? What do you think?
I feel it's good because basically Battlefield 3 comes with this blue filter, which really is just a stupid idea because if you remove it, it looks like it's like a whole new different game. It's got perfect colors, perfect backgrounds. It's beautiful looking, and I feel if people want to change what it looks like, remove a filter, all power to them, as long as it's not like a cheat or anything,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you said that. Gustav Halling works for the DICE team. Calls it too colorful. Also, I wouldn't use those hacks if you don't want a permaban on your account. I mean, obviously, we don't know the ins and outs, and we don't know technically if it could be considered a hack. It's from bf3realmware.co.uk. Obviously, it's not an official DICE mod, but I just don't see the problem with it. PC Gamer had a bunch of photos up. I've seen the game running with the mod, and like you said, it just looks more beautiful. I mean, you spend all this time and money, you build these beautiful worlds, and then you put it behind a blue lens, and it's like, why? If you want to modify it, go ahead. As far as competitive play goes, I mean, I can understand the idea of an opponent will stick out if you've got, like, I don't know, if he's standing behind a tree or in front of a tree and it's a bright green tree, he's going to stick out more with the mod than without the mod. But I mean, these are small things, and at the end of the day, you paid for it. Even if you have to do it on private servers, just go ahead. I mean, to me, it should be allowed. More importantly, recently there was a glimmer of hope. DICE was saying they might implement it on the next patch. That's been shown to be absolutely wrong, and they have no plans to implement it. So, yeah, sorry guys, you won't be able to see the beautiful colors of Battlefield 3 for a while yet.
Do you actually know why, like, they don't want to implement it? They've actually, like, given, like, an excuse.
That it is an excuse, and I mean, without getting into the kind of the tinfoil conspiracy theories, each game has to have its own theme, right? You look at Warfighter came out, whose theme was brown, But I mean, honestly, you look at Battlefield 3, and it's got this blue filter. It's got this kind of edgy, gritty feel to it. And I think if you allow people to make it a colorful, beautiful game, then they're going to say, okay, what's Battlefield 4 going to be about? You got to give it another theme. And if Battlefield 4 is, the same amount of colors as Battlefield 3, people are going to say, well, it doesn't have its own feeling. It doesn't have the same, direction that Battlefield 3 has. Each game has to have its own feeling, and I think that's what DICE is worried about. Because if you think about it, look at highly successful games like CS, right? Not a lot of color filters, and those graphics have seen the test of time because people say, look at that. That white building is white. There's no theme to it. But with these games that you got to chunk everyone, a new one out every year. You got to give it a new theme. You got to give it a new color scheme. And
A
I
gimmick,
guess,
pretty much.
yeah, it makes each year's trailer look a little bit different, I guess. All right. You guys want to move on to Dishonored? I know both of you have been playing it. You guys been enjoying it so far?
Definitely. So far, game of the year. Aries, do you want
Wow.
to talk about it first, or should I?
You can start it off.
Well, so far it's my game of the year, and sadly, I don't think it should be game of the year material, but given how, well, in my opinion, this year has been pretty terrible, it just has to be my game of the year so far. Story-wise, it's not that good. I mean, they have this guy in it called the Outsider who basically grants you the magical powers. You could take him out and substitute anything in there, and it'd be fine. He's just not written well enough. You don't know enough about him. Story takes a backseat. Combat is very interesting because they implement this magic system, which includes like teleportation. You can possess people, lots of other cool things in there. And combat-wise, it's pretty cool because you have this sort of flintlock pistol that can fire around 10 shots. You have a crossbow. You have a sword. You can mix up the gameplay. Combat-wise, with the sword, it's kind of like Skyrim, but not as floaty as Skyrim. Think Dark
Right.
Messiah, but not as complex as Dark Messiah. There's also stealth. It's... What can I compare it with? I'd compare it with Deus Ex Human Revolution or all the
Oh,
other
wow.
Deus Exes. You can pretty much do anything you want in that game. Sadly, it's kind of short. It's got around 7 to 9 hours, but it does have major replay value because one game you could go full just kill everybody mode, then you can go stealth in that one, or stealth with a lot of killing. Do anything you want. I'd give it.
Yeah,
Hmm?
go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead.
I'd give it around like a 9 or 8 out of 10. Truth be
Wow.
told.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had an opportunity to play it, but honestly, the whole Victorian England meets Half-Life 2, just the aesthetic, the landscape, everything, it looks like such an atmospheric game that even aside from the combat and the story, it's great to see a game world that you really kind of want to get immersed in. And that's what I took away from it, from all the videos that I've seen, all the gameplays.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Half-Life 2, because the art director, Victor Antonov, I believe his name was, he was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
person who worked on Half-Life 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Aries, what do you think of this game?
I actually love games that have stealth mechanics. I mean, if a game has stealth mechanics and they work, I mean, at least fairly well. I mean, I've played some games where it's just horrendous, but with this game they do a rather good job. I mean, yeah, I mean, you're right with the story. It is a little bit iffy. Like, sometimes you don't feel like you're absolutely in it. Like you're just sort of watching it happen as you just, sit there blankly. But I mean, it's really fun to play. It's really engaging as long as as far as the combat goes.
Yeah, for sure. The only thing that's kind of bothering me now, chunky hands. You see it, you saw it in Bioshock 2, the same thing. And I guess it's a way to kind of, to roll down the intensity of like graphics in a game by just putting these ugly chunky hands. But after a while, it almost breaks the immersion when you have to look down and see these meat mitts. I mean, is it just me or do you guys kind of agree?
I think it's them
Unrealistic
trying
hands.
to, like, make a hand, but they don't really understand, like, how hands work. I've played Medal of Honor, and the hands in that are, like, slightly normal. I'm talking about Medal of Honor Allied Assault, not the terrible new ones. But yeah, they're relatively normal-looking hands. In this, it's almost like, alright, we gotta make, like, hands, man. We gotta make hands. So they just
Yeah.
make these massive, massive, really meaty hands.
Yeah, it's almost like it works in TF2, but that's TF2, and then you see them on, what's his name? What's the main character's name in this? Anyway, whatever his name is. You just see it on, and you're like, it's not natural. It doesn't look good, but I guess you gotta kind of dumb it down for consoles, so it's understandable. All right, want to move on to the Origin-free game debacle? Essentially, for people who don't know what happened here, Origin was giving out codes that would allow you a free game if it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 1999 or less. Turned out that free code could be used as many times as you wanted, so people were making, dozens of accounts, grabbing all those now free games, and I guess selling or doing whatever they're going to do with it, but it's not looking good for Origin, and this is a service which has had its problems to say the least, so How do you think this will do for the company?
Eric, I think I'll go first. It's really screwed them over. I've seen dozens of pictures of people's Origin libraries, and one picture I just have in my head burned forever is this library just filled with, I think it's almost every game on Origin. He even had the Sims Katy Perry DLC expansion. Just every game on there, just because he can. I mean, this is really a loss in profit for them. It's probably around, like, around, like, maybe 10 million. Just a lot of money just gone to waste because of a fuck-up on their end. You just know somebody's gonna get fired because of this.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, also, sometimes game developers will say, well, we're not making the profits that we want because of pirates and everything, but if you think about it, what's their excuse now? I mean, we just messed up. I mean, probably lost more, like, because of this mistake than pirating would in about the same amount of time.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this is the same company that said, oh, we're not going to do these massive sales because we don't want to be like Steam. We want people to value our games. We want people to say, I'm going to throw down $60 because this is worth $60. You can't do that and then turn around and say, hey, everything that's under $20, take it for free. It's a strange business process, but I guess that's kind of been the problem with EA for a couple of years now.
Yeah, they're just making very stupid decisions at a time in their life where their company is really heading downhill.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, let's jump. Watch this segue. Let's jump from a seemingly failing digital distribution service to another one that's on the rise, Steam. Just releasing, well, not just releasing, but releasing Big Picture. It's in beta now. It'll be coming out soon. Just wanted to get some reaction, see what you guys think. I personally love it. I've got my PC connected to my TV. If I ever need to hop on, get straight on there. It's great for games so far. It's great for, they've implemented the daisy wheel, which is strange to think that Steam, who have really a small footprint in terms of console development or anything to do with controllers, they've implemented this great little keyboard thing that you scroll around with the joysticks, pick each letter which corresponds to the X, Y, B, A, and you can actually type pretty quick. I mean, I know I've been mailing you guys every once in a while BRB on TV or something, but it works a lot better than anything that I've seen on PS3 or Xbox.
I think I'll jump right into this because, this has been, like, really crucial because I think Big Picture just shows that, like, you know how people say, oh, PC's just so hard to get into. This basically just takes that, little excuse and just destroys it out of the water because, I've actually seen this a couple times before. There was an ad in Game Informer, which is basically GameStop's advertisement magazine.
Yeah.
It was basically like, this is the new way of consoles, and it shows an Alienware PC. And as much as I don't like Alienware, they're right, because basically, if you're hesitant about joining the PC, master race, like, all you have to do is just grab yourself, like, an Alienware PC that they have, like, advertised, put it on the ground, hook it up to your TV, install Steam, install Big Picture, get a controller, sit on the couch, and you basically have your very own console there that is better than the Xbox Live dashboard and better than the PlayStation Network, operating system. I mean, it runs smoother than both of them, and it's just perfect, So, if you're really getting tired of, Xbox, PS3, this is like a shining example of like, hey, ditch that and join this,
Yeah, and the beautiful thing is, I mean, for me, because my TV's, it's in the same room, but it's pretty far from my PC. I got an HDMI cable, $10, reaches all the way across the room, plug it in, you're good to go. The only thing that needs to be worked on, and obviously this is still in beta, but there are a bunch of kind of niggly little errors. So I'll be on my TV, click play. Oh, DirectX needs to update. Oh, great. Walk across, press OK. The issue is, I think they tried to implement everything onto the controller. So if it comes out of if the error comes out of the PC itself, it kind of says, well, now I'm looking for a mouse to click OK or to keep going on this, and you just can't do that with the controller. So, I mean, there are some issues to be kind of ironed out, but, it's a beta. And I agree with what you said. All you need now is just, a pretty average PC, really. Hook it up to your TV, and you've got a console experience right there. What do you think, Aries? Is this something you'd move to?
I definitely would. I mean, I know that most people who are on consoles now, they think, well, a PC is just definitely a really big investment because obviously it would cost a lot more to get a one of the higher end PCs, but in no way would I ever regret what I have with me. And after I built my PC, I mean, it's just been working wonders. It's been amazing, and I actually will probably be trying out Steam Greenlight too. I mean, I haven't now, but I mean, all I've heard is just wonderful things about it.
I
Oh
think you
yeah,
mean big
absolutely.
picture. Greenlight's
Oh,
the
big
game
picture,
selecting
not
thing.
Greenlight.
Okay, we know. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I'm gonna say it. The Steam Box Fantasy's coming.
Oh
What you
yeah.
want? The Fat Box 720, it's coming.
No, but it's actually not that, far out. I mean, like, they already have their own operating system going here. If they were to release, like, medium gaming PC, 5770 ATI, and, like, a decent AMD quad-core, they can manage it for around $500, $600, and they can sell that with, this OS crammed into it. It'd be perfect.
Very
No,
true.
you're absolutely right.
So, should we move on to the next subject?
Yeah, alright. This is going to be something I'm sure everyone's excited about. Ubisoft pairing $60 price tag with microtransactions. What do you guys think? You guys ready to crack open Assassin's Creed 3, pay your $60, hop into the game, and then be offered to buy extra items?
This is just like a new level of, casuals
User
that
in your
I've never
channel
even
timed
heard
out.
of.
I know.
Oh, looks like Ares timed out.
That's okay, he'll be back.
Yeah. It's really just loathsome because there are people out there who are so lazy that instead of, playing the actual game, they think, oh, I'll just throw around $15 at it, then I can, be the best damn player on the game,
Yeah. And I don't understand the direction. It's kind of like you want to sell a game every year. Fair enough, you're a company, you got to make money, but you're going to pair it with microtransactions as well. Where does it stop? Other than
It,
that, we've got Ubisoft CFO Alan Martinez and worldwide online director Stephanie Perotti acknowledging the flexibility of free-to-play business models and the opportunity for full-price games offering microtransactional items. Free-to-play is a very flexible business model. I guess, but you can't have, a free-to-play model and then tack a $60 price tag to it and then microtransactions on top of it. Yeah,
User joined your
somebody's got
channel.
to give at this point.
Hey, Ares. Yeah, I think free-to-play, though, that's the worst business model you can get because it just degrades the quality of the game, and I feel it does this because of something called a retard filter, if you will. Any retard, BR, or Russian, and as you know, BRs and Russians are terrible gamers, just horrible people when it comes to gaming. Not all of them, but a majority of them. They join the game, and they're just terrible,
Yeah.
So there's not that filter in place, and on top of that, free-to-play items can basically just not free-to-play, pay-to-win items can just ruin the game because they can just say, oh, I'll buy the strongest character, I'll buy this, and they can just be a level 1 and dominating everybody,
Yeah, and it's always an issue too because the buzzword's always going to be, non-game changing items. I mean, we'll get into this when we go over Guild Wars, but as hard as people try, there's going to be some items that are going to influence the game, either directly or indirectly. So it's just not fair to say microtransactional items which are only aesthetics, because as far as gaming, and as far as making money from gaming, you're not going to make too much money off aesthetic items. You're going to have to say it's aesthetic, but maybe it does a little bit more, and I think that's dangerous.
Yeah,
And I think,
go ahead, Ares.
Oh, well, I think that just in games, pay-to-win items are just not a good idea. I don't think in any situation could they ever be effective. I mean, this is a very unrelated game, but a very related topic. I played this game called Combat Arms so many years ago, but
oh yeah.
you just see these people who drop like so much money on the game, and they have all the best gear, all the best weapons, all the best utilities, and they just completely destroy all the other characters who are just looking for some fun, and I just don't see a good place for it.
And there does come a time where you kind of say, am I getting my value for money? I've plonked down $60. I've got a game. Stop asking for more, there you got to draw a line somewhere. And actually, just to kind of close this off, comment I was reading off the PC Gamer site, Burgess101 at 7 p.m. wrote, piss off. And I think that kind of sums it up. Yeah, that kind of encapsulates what everybody's thinking, Ubisoft. Moving on, just do a quick FIFA overview. I think I've had enough time. Aries had enough time to get more than initial thoughts, get really into the meat and bread of the game. And I gotta say it's great, but it's one of those games that really frustrate me because it's another one of those games where I'm buying every year and I'm genuinely enjoying it, but in the back of my mind, I'm kind of thinking, should I be enjoying this? I mean, I'm playing a very similar game to FIFA 12. Sure, there's a lot of differences. There's new kits, new game modes, a whole slew of online options. But it is, it's basically FIFA 12 with some extra polish on it. Having said that, some of the big changes that I really like is it's just a whole new level of competition in terms of head-to-head, in terms of pro clubs, this whole abstract scoring system of how many players are on that team, how many players are on this team, multiplied by the gold, multiplied by the difference in team ability. That's all gone. Pretty much all of those modes have been replaced with a straight 3 points you win, 1 point for a draw, which is great. Other than that, you got pro clubs, which is 100% online. That's great. Head-to-head seasons. Pro club has essentially a seasons mode. Manager mode's been redone. Career mode, it's a really kind of just a great polished game. It's not as many bugs with the career mode in terms of scouting, in terms of players that just don't come up through the ranks, in terms of Leo Messi leaving after 3 months because he's unhappy with Barcelona. Stuff like that seems to be generally gone. And the biggest thing, just the first touch system, I think is just amazing. I mean, the whole kind of you could almost calculate what you were going to do in FIFA 12, especially in clubs. You knew the runs to make, you knew the shots to take, but this whole first touch system, it's thrown our club, a curveball, but we're really enjoying it. You've also had, you're kind of a new player to FIFA. What did you think, Aries? This kind of being your first real foray into the genre.
Well, first impressions were actually pretty good. I mean, I've only heard good news of it from Dan, but once I started playing it, I mean, I thought it was really fun, but I could see how Dan could get a little bit, I guess, sort of, I don't want to say bored, but just a little bit less enthusiastic with each year.
Yeah.
Because I have heard from other games, like, I know that EA has, like, a football series of games and then a basketball series. And I've heard from people that after a few years, I mean, there's new players, there's a couple new modes, but overall, it's very much, you're right, just a coat of polish.
Yeah, and like I said, it's strange. You buy a new version every year, but until I stop having fun, and I mean, that's I guess what's important with the FIFA game. All right, let's move on to the Guild Wars 2 section. Got a couple questions. We've dug our teeth into it. I'm still enjoying it. One of the questions that I wanted to put is it getting boring? There's no kind of high-level rating system. Everything seems a bit, I don't want to say dumbed down, but everything's kind of an accessible level where any person at any level can pretty much do anything. And I almost feel like that's a hindrance to the game because I'm I'm in the game right now and I'm thinking, what do I do here? What's my next goal? And it just seems like the world's open to me, but I don't really feel like doing much of it. What do you think, Aries? Because I know you've spent quite a lot of time as well.
I have spent quite a bit of time on it. I mean, well, I sort of took the role of an explorer, a discoverer in that game, instead of one of the people who just goes in and tries to finish quests of defeating monsters and bosses and everything. But I think that as far as discovering goes, I mean, it's all new areas, so it stays sort of fresh. But then after a certain amount of time, I look at it, I'm like, what am I really accomplishing here besides just discovering on the map? I mean.
Yeah.
I'll just occasionally just swap roles and then go and fight and complete some quests, fight some monsters, but that just brings me to the game mechanics. I mean, they're fun and everything, but it seems like the level scaling really puts a damper on leveling up and getting your new gear and everything, because I think that actually for about, I'd say near 75% of my gameplay so far, I've actually been scaled under, and I just think it's getting sort of old.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of what you were talking about. I was looking through doing some explorable dungeons, and I'm level 80 right now. And I'm looking at the rewards, and it's like 200 tokens for some pauldrons, and I'm kind of thinking, all right, those look cool. You look at the stats; those are worse than the stats that I have now. So I'm gonna sink another, I'm gonna say maybe 10, 15 hours to get the full set, and then they're not gonna have better stats. It'll have a better skin, but I mean that's not too interesting to me. I think there's definitely an issue of I can't have. I think I put in maybe 100 hours so far, and I can't be at the level where I can't go any further. And I understand ArenaNet's idea of, everyone should be able to have fun at any time, but there has to be a point where you're building up to something bigger, because I don't want to grind for, a new set of armor and then say, I should put on my old armor because actually that had better stats. But, these are problems that I think ArenaNet was going to, fall into because they've drastically changed how they're, approaching an MMO. Also, Halloween event just ended, and that was great. Ton of different activities. They had the jumping puzzles. They had that sort of MOBA experiment, which I really enjoyed. Another pretty basic dungeon. That was fun. They had a bit of a zombie mode, which was good. And it seems like this is kind of a testing bed for future updates. Speaking of future updates, they've got something big happening in November. Nothing but teasers so far, but look forward to that. And hey, it's free. What can you say? Let's move on now to our Borderlands 2 rant review. I know Aries and AdCred have really been enjoying that, so I'll pass it over to them.
Okay, AdCred, if you want, you can go first on this.
Sure. As usual, Borderlands 2 is a sequel to Borderlands 1, and it does its job like Borderlands 1 did, which is basically act like crack. This game is just addictive as all hell. I mean, granted, it's got some faults with it, as did Borderlands 1. For one, in a lot of instances, it supplements real humor out for just, meme spouting. Like, I used to be a vault gunner like you, and,
Oh, God.
Yo Dog, and just a lot of, crammed in memes that, just aren't original in the slightest. It seems like they looked up, the internet and just crammed in a lot of memes they found online.
Lowest common denominator stuff.
Yeah, if you actually play, past the memes, there's really a lot of cool comedy in Borderlands 2, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly quest. They can do comedy. They just, choose not to, instead favoring memes.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, there's some other faults, a lot of weird things they did. If you play Zero, which is the sniper class, kind of like Mordecai was in Borderlands 1, when you get downed and you're holding a sniper rifle, they remove the ability to zoom in, which really screws you over, because, you're playing a sniper, and I carry tons of different sniper rifles. I carry 4 of them with different elemental types, and yeah, it really screws you over. Lots of other things, but for the most part, it's a really good game, and I highly recommend it if you like Diablo 2 and you like first-person shooters, this is definitely right up your alley. And it seems that Ares has timed out again.
That's okay, he'll hop back in. I think his TeamSpeak's giving him some problems.
Okay. I guess I'll just keep talking till he comes back.
Yeah. Fill the dead airspace, AdCred.
Yeah. There's lots of other cool weapons in there, too. They have this one weapon powered by... I forget what the element is called. But it's a really good weapon, too. It shoots crystals, sort of. There's lots of content in there that's very new. And, man, I can't keep this going on. We need Ares.
So what do you think about the aesthetics? I mean, obviously Borderlands 1 had that very kind of easily identifiable cel-shaded graphics. Are they getting older in Borderlands 2, or is it still kind of cool to be able to go into that world?
It's getting very old. It really is. I mean, granted, the first area, which is the snowy area with the Aurora... I think it's the Aurora Borealis. Yeah, I just thought that was the name of the ship in Half-Life 2, Episode 2. Yeah.
Borealis, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's there. It looks pretty, but it could look so much better, and it just feels kind of lazy at this point,
Yeah. So it's no longer an aesthetic. It's almost like a shortcut, you're saying?
Yeah. Perfect. It's basically just a shortcut.
I got you. What about you, Aries? Because I know you got hours and hours into Borderlands.
Oh goodness, have I? I mean, I was a huge fan of the first one. Oh goodness, if I count what I played on the Xbox, I would say maybe near 2 hours, or 200 hours rather.
Wow.
And yeah, I would say it's definitely an upgrade as far as graphics. I mean, the physics is beautiful. I mean, I just think it's a perfect way to upgrade the graphics without necessarily doing a complete overhaul. But I would say there are definitely some downfalls to the game. My biggest pet peeve for it, I would say, is difficulty. Seems like the scaling as far as enemies goes, I think for basic enemies, they do just a little bit too much. I mean, in Borderlands 1, I must say it was a complete pushover. But, yeah, I would say it's definitely a good upgrade.
No, that's great. Moving on, we're going to talk a bit about why the Vita is having disappointing sales. Apparently, they've got 1.6 million units sold in the past 3 months, and that's a decrease from 1.8 in the first quarter. It's not looking great. I know Adcred's got some pretty strong feelings on it, so without further ado, go ahead.
Well, there's really like three main reasons why the Vita failed, and one of them has to be advertising. I mean, granted, the Vita did have some advertising. It really wasn't until later, after it was released, that they had advertising. But it just isn't enough, and I have to refer back to the PSP launch. The PSP launch was massive. The PSP sold tons of copies, and I think advertising played a big part in it, because it was advertised a lot. It had good advertisements, with Marcus, PSP, that kid. And
Oh,
then
yeah,
it
yeah,
had
yeah.
downright stupid ones. Like, I don't know if any of you remember it, but it was like Squirrels, PSP. It was a
I don't
stupid
remember that.
commercial which involved like animated squirrels saying like, "Hey, I'm playing Nut," and then he holds up a PSP. Just really stupid. But the bottom line is that the message got out there that this was the PSP, and everybody wanted one. Everybody's grandmother knew what a PSP was, and everybody wanted one, and it
Mm-hmm.
sold a lot thanks to the advertising. The Vita just had none. On top of that, the PSP had a good game lineup, a marginally good game lineup. The PS Vita has a game lineup, but it just isn't enough to warrant a full purchase, especially given the price. I mean, I think the two main recognizable games are Uncharted, Golden Abyss, I believe it's called, and Gravity Rush. There's a lot of other games too, like Atelier, if I'm saying it right, or Alatier,
Mm-hmm.
and Wipeout. But again, it's just not enough to warrant a full purchase, and especially with the price.
Yeah, and I do kind of get the impression that Nintendo, with each DS that comes out, they're almost moving away from gaming and sort of like, I'm not going to call it a tablet replacement, but they're kind of saying, and you look at their recent advertisements, and this speaks to it clearly. They're saying, use the DS for painting, use it for cooking, use it for anything except for games. And I wonder if PlayStation, by sticking with, gamers, let's call them, I hate to use that word, I wonder if they're kind of doing a disservice to the Vita, where people are looking at it and they're saying, well, is it really that much of an upgrade? I mean, people were excited about the original PSP, but that's died down, and I wonder if they need to kind of broaden their market a bit more, kind of follow the DS pattern.
Well, I think it. One of the main things is that they really want people to play these games. I'm sorry, to buy the Vita and play the games on it. But there's just so little there. I mean, they've unveiled that there's like some decent games coming out, like Killzone and another one, Soul Eater or something like that. I forget the name. And they look like good games, but it's just expensive. You don't know how long it will last, and I don't think it will last that long, given how little units they're selling. And I think they might discontinue it in like 2 years' time.
Yeah.
But there's just not enough there. And on top of that, Sony's made such stupid moves. I mean, the Vita has its own memory cards. Like, why would you do that? You could have easily, like, gained more money and more people buying it by saying, oh yeah, and if you have an SD card or any other type of, memory card, just, slide that in there and it'll work. And on top of that, they basically restricted one account per memory card. So you can't have like three different PlayStation accounts on one memory card. No, you have to buy a memory card for each PlayStation account, which, again, stupid restriction. It's going to make people say, oh, well, I don't want to play the Vita for that. You know?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think if you're Apple and you're big and people are going to buy your products, you can say you can only use these hardware adjustments. But if you're Sony and you want to get people to adopt the Vita, you can't be saying something as simple as a memory card. You can't be saying, "Oh, you need our official Sony one." I mean, you're just segregating the market at that point.
Yes, and on top of that, I feel there were some things they could have done. Like, okay, you want to keep your restrictions, fine, but I feel some things really could have saved them. And this comes in because of the games. Like, they don't have that many games out there, right? What if they were to, like, include a PS1 or a PS2 emulator on there? Like a custom-made PS2 emulator. And this thing is basically like a mini PS3, so
Hmm.
it can run PS2 games. What if they included that on there and got rid of the whole Vita exclusive memory card and said, hey, do you like, Jack and Daxter games? Well, you could just put that on your memory card, plug it into your Vita, and play it on the PS2 emulator, I feel they could have made a good amount of money there, and they could have kept it alive for a while they say, okay, let's get some good games for it that aren't ports, you know?
Yeah, well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We fixed the PS Vita. And to finish off the pod, we're going to do a profile. We're going to bring somebody into our inaugural pantheon of legends. And who else to kind of get us kick-started than Gabe Newell. You guys ready?
Go for
Oh,
it.
yeah.
All right. November 3rd, 1962, Long Beach, Washington. Gabe Newell drops out of Harvard to join Microsoft at the request of Steve Ballmer, who was head of sales at that point. Newell spent 13 years working for Microsoft. He was the producer of the first 3 releases of Windows. By 1996, Newell and his co-worker Mike Harrington leave Microsoft as Microsoft millionaires. He was millionaires in the 90s too, so they did quite all right. And with the fortune of the success from Windows, Newell was inspired by Michael Abrash, another employee of Microsoft, who left to work on Quake at id Software. Kind of inspired him to maybe he'd like to get into the gaming and digital distribution industry. Kind of great start, you know. It's not a rags to riches story, but it's good to see someone who's already got millions of dollars kind of saying, you know, I'd like to break into this industry. It kind of shows how much passion these people have, because he could have just bought an island and sat on there for the rest of his life, but instead, you know, he's working at Valve.
Dropped out of Harvard, too. That's like a big, big risk.
Yeah.
Man.
All the work at the request of insane man Steve Ballmer. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but this man is insane.
All I can think of when I hear Steve Ballmer is his video of like the intro to a speech when he's running around, you know, like armpit sweat stains, and he's like, "I love this company."
Developers, man.
I just get scared sitting in my seat watching it.
Well, okay, so we're writing this profile, and it says, drops out of Harvard to join Microsoft at the request of Steve Ballmer. What does a request from Steve Ballmer look like? Because it's not going to be a nice little letter written to him, sent through the post who flops on his desk. It's just got to be just a bald man running up to you in the middle of the night saying, "Join Microsoft!" Oh, man.
With the sweat stains and everything.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, well. 1996, August 24th, Valve is born. This is the same day that Gaben got married, and their first, I really shouldn't call him Gaben this early, but it's okay. It's a warm and fuzzy name for me, so I'll call him Gaben. Their first order of business is to acquire the licensing rights to the original Quake engine from id Software, which they say they immediately fell in love with, and I guess it demonstrates the great relationship that Valve has and had with id Software. This soon becomes a heavily modified gold source engine, with about 70% of the original code being rewritten.
Wow, I did not know that. I didn't know it was a Quake engine.
Yeah.
Alright, should I go next?
Yeah.
Alright, on 1997, Gabe Newell begins a long-standing Valve tradition and decides to regroup his creative teams to start from scratch on a single title, combining the drama of Prospero with the action of Quiver in what would be a groundbreaking achievement for the video game industry. An FPS with a decent, coherent storyline. The new project is dubbed Half-Life, which is first shown to the public at E3 convention to generally appreciative murmurs.
It's kind of crazy to think, you know, the world before Half-Life, or, you know, the gaming realm before Half-Life, what might have been going through these people's heads. They had no idea what was coming, you know? It's great.
Oh no, definitely. And this is like I think this is like the first FPS game to really be taken seriously, sort of. This isn't just like Doom or Wolfenstein where it's like, kill, kill, kill. It's like, you know, a game with a storyline, you know, a purpose, you know, puzzles, platforming, lots of stuff in there. You know, this is like the beginning of good FPS. And, you know, after that's the downfall with Modern Warfare and run, shoot, hallway, yeah.
No, this is the Pantheon of Legends. We're only speaking positively about Gabe Newell. Keep your thoughts till later. Aries, you want to keep us going?
Sure, I'll move on to May of 1998. Valve acquires TF Software Pty Limited, the makers of the original Team Fortress mod for Quake, with the intention of developing and releasing a new standalone title, Team Fortress 2. This would ultimately take the company 9 years to do. I just think that it's awesome that, you know, after 9 years, I mean, none of the material would get old. I know that would Duke Nukem Forever. I mean, that took, near 13 years, but then you could just see the parts that were, like, sort of old technology that they may have, I guess, forgotten about until the until the end when they look at it. But I
Really?
think that game is just amazing.
Yeah, and it does show, even though it took 9 years to do, a lot of the mechanics they put in, I mean, they're timeless. I mean, I've been playing Team Fortress for years now, and I'm going to be playing it for years because, I mean, you can say from the graphics, from the gameplay mechanics, from constant updates, they've really just made a timeless game. Even if it took 9 years to do, it'll last for, 99 more. I don't know. Moving on to November 1998, Half-Life is released through Sierra Online after some initial difficulty, quickly becomes a bestseller and wins high critical acclaim, snagging no less than 51 Game of the Year awards from various publications. To this day, it is generally regarded as one of the greatest games ever made. I mean, what can you say? It's Half-Life. It's the game everything's compared to. If I see a good game out now, I'm kind of like, yeah, it almost gets the Half-Life status. What can you guys say about Half-Life?
Probably the greatest game ever. It has just the perfect amount of substance, just the right amount of, shooting, just the right amount of platforming. It's just. I generally regard Half-Life 2 to be the greatest game ever, but Half-Life, even compared to Half-Life 2, current game, it still holds up today. It's still a great game. And honestly, I think this is like the first game people should try if they want to get into gaming. I think it should be mandatory, because this
Yeah,
is like perfection right here.
yeah,
Very much so. Yeah, I mean, the first time I played Half-Life, I was like, "Well, this is a pretty cool game." And then, I got into the story and actually got to actually be inside the story. I mean, you don't get to feel that in most games. I mean, there's always some imbalance. It just sort of makes you feel like you're not actually playing it. But I mean, the physics were great. I mean, I think that's what Valve's sort of renowned for. But I definitely felt like I was part of the game, and that's always a really good thing that game devs are looking to do.
absolutely. And AdCrit, moving us on from a game that might even be able to topple Half-Life's enjoyment for me. Go ahead.
Ah, okay. March 24th, 1999. Planet Half-Life opened its Counter-Strike section. Within
Oh.
2 weeks, the site had received 10,000 hits. And this is pretty big back then for
Oh yeah.
1999. On June 19th, 1999, the first public beta of Counter-Strike was released, followed by numerous further beta releases. On April 12th, 2000, Valve announced the Counter-Strike developers and Valve had teamed up. By November 8th, 1.0 was released, sparking the greatest multiplayer trends of all time. And this game, I'd just like to say, is still played today. This still has like a high amount of people playing it uh in the thousands.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just one of those timeless games. Obviously, we're talking about it now. CS:GO is having its free weekend. I mean, it just shows you how relevant the game still is. Say what you will about Go, it's essentially just a newer version of CS. The same mechanics are there, the same shooting, the same objectives, models, everything. It just shows what a classic game it is. And if you look, I mean, I'm on the Steam charts right now. Current players 38,998. No, yeah, 989. That's
Wow.
right now. I mean, and it's not even peak. It's what is it? Fourth place right now. Crazy stuff.
Oh. I mean, I think that it's just. I mean, in most games, I mean, I don't want to mention some titles, but when all you do is just sort of reskin a game, just slap a nice new coat of paint on and give it some new textures. Most people would generally thumb it down, but I think Valve realized that everybody loves Source for just the game that it is. So I think that if you just make it look a little bit prettier, but you still keep what the community wants, you can't really fail.
And
Absolutely.
I believe on top of that, price comes into the matter because
Hmm.
Call of Duty's become infamously known for doing this, but instead of even updating the graphics, they just slap a new coat of paint on it. Valve knows that, like, hey, this game's good, got updated graphics, but this sure as hell ain't worth, $60. And when it was released, how much was it, Dan? $15, $20?
It was 15.
15, right?
Yeah, around $15 or $20. I mean,
Cheap as
that
chips.
for this game, which I mean, with mods and all, and like custom maps, this will give you thousands of hours of playtime. Surf maps, puzzle maps, gun games, shot for shots, modes that I can't even think of.
Yeah. The modding is just ridiculous, and it's something that's really going out of the industry, and it's a shame to see that. People are always talking about how can we keep gamers interested. People are leaving. even now, Modern Warfare 3 is having issues that gamers are kind of leaving Battlefield 3. They're always trying to keep gamers playing, and it's just like open your door to mods. You look, Counter Strike was made a decade ago, and people are still playing it. So it's a lesson in how to keep people playing your games.
On top of that, I'd like to add that CD Projekt, which are basically as cool as Valve are, they've actually announced that they're adding a mod kit for The Witcher, because they're the same people who made the Witcher series. They're announcing a mod kit. I forget what it's called, but I think it's called the Red Kit or something like that. They're announcing a mod kit that will come out around 2013, I think.
There you go. Longevity to your game. Yeah, absolutely. And from one great release to another, May 2003, countless rumors. Half-Life 2 was officially announced and previewed at E3. Gabe Newell previews one of the first games to ever use authentic-looking real-world physics and lighting. And that was huge back then, because, we kind of look at games now and we think, okay, fine, physics, lighting, those are kind of just your bread and butter. But back then, seeing an early preview of Half-Life 2, it was just night and day. And as if that wasn't enough, the wait, well, this is what was announced, will be such a small wait with a September 2003 release date. Obviously, we'll go into it, that didn't happen, but still, the impact that the announcement of Half-Life 2 had on the industry, because, mind you, this is after Half-Life 1, a huge game. How can Valve, better themselves? And I think the result was pretty fantastic. Who wants to take this next one?
I'll do it. Or
okay.
Aries. Aries, you can do it.
Okay, on November 16, 2004, the long-awaited sequel to Half-Life 1 is released. Half-Life 2, its next 35 Game of the Year awards. Had a little bit of competition with Doom 3. It was a pretty good competitor with it, but even got a Guinness World Record for the highest-rated game. Many publications claim it is fitting that the first game that could knock Half-Life off its pedestal for 6 years was its own sequel.
Yeah, and I think that kind of nails it. If there was one game that would beat Half-Life, it's Half-Life 2.
And this was like a huge game too. This was like the Crisis of the time. Graphics were stunning, physics were amazing, and it was just a perfect action game. Lots of varied environments, and hell, if you guys know about the beta of Half-Life 2, the amount of content they had in the Half-Life 2 beta is enough to make like a brand new game. In fact, lots of people have tried. I know there's a Russian Half-Life 2 project for the beta, and I know there's the Missing Information mod.
Yeah, well, okay. So going back to your little dystopian indoctrination, what would you have people play then? Half-Life or Half-Life 2? If they need to play a game before they're given the keys to their PC, what do they have to play?
I'm gonna have to say Half-Life 1. Because, if they play this game, you know damn well once they get their gaming PC, they're going to want to continue this game. Then they'll play Half-Life 2, and they'll see just how beautiful and pure this series is, and how it is the high point of gaming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aries, what about you?
I would definitely just say I would definitely go for the first one, because I just think that if you start with the second game, I just think that it's a little bit of a drag to beat the second game and say, well, I don't even know the story from the first one, so then you feel like you have to go back, and that the loose ends that are left from what you didn't understand from the second game are just getting resolved after playing the first, and I think just going through the story normally would just be the best option. They're both legendary, awesome games, so I just think it would be good to start fresh, start normal, just go through the series as it is.
Dan, you there?
Yeah. All right, Aries, you want to do the last bit?
Sure. In October 2007, the Orange Box, featuring Half-Life 2, Episode 2, Portal, and the long-awaited Team Fortress 2 is released to great acclaim and several more awards. Continuation of fantastic games like Portal, TF2 upgrades, Left 4 Dead, Greenlight.
Yeah,
well,
and I think we'll end it there, because we were writing this out and we're kind of thinking, how far can we go? It just seems like every year now. You got Dota 2 coming out, you got Big Picture, you got Greenlight, you've got so many different games and just upgrades to games, where I think it just shows how healthy and just what a great product Gabe Newell has made. Just
Oh
to kind
yeah.
of close off, I mean, conservative estimates put Valve's enterprise value more than $3 billion. Gabe Newell owns more than 50% of the company. And as of recording, Steam has 4,787,000 users. And this is just always growing. So, any last thoughts?
Oh, I think it's perfect. I think they're really breaking a lot of barriers because you have TF2. That's a whole other economy there, right for just for one game, you know? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's an amazing thing. And on top of that, you have Greenlight, which is like breaking new barriers between developers and customers. I mean, all right, do people want this game on Steam? You know, Greenlight, people can vote on it. And if it's a shitty game, like if it's a terrible indie 2D retro platformer, you know, like what's shoveled out every year, people can say, no, we don't want this on Steam. And then they'll say, oh, I guess I'll have to try something else then, you know? And we might get good games too. And on top of that, say somebody puts something in a game and nobody likes it. They can pretty much say, well, we don't really like this. And they can say, oh, well, let's remove it, let's retweak it. Do you like it now, or we'll remove it, you know?
Absolutely. What about you, Aries?
I think that I think it's definitely good to listen to the community. I mean, the best thing about being a game developer is just listening to the community, and if you can give them what they want, I mean, it's going to return in both profits and just good feedback.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So I think with that, we're gonna induct our first legend into the pantheon of legends. Everybody, Gabe Newell. Let's have a clap.
What a stud.
What a stud. All right, just to end off the podcast, what are you guys playing right now? What are you guys looking forward to?
Greg, if you want, you can start this off.
Right now I'm playing Oblivion. So far, enjoying it. Combat is kind of solid and not in the good way. But, you know, I like it so far. It's pretty decent. Lots of areas, but goddamn the faces in Oblivion. Oh my god. Stuff of nightmares. I'm looking forward to, pretty much nothing this year. This year's been pretty terrible, but I am looking forward to Metro Last Light, which is, you know, next year. But,
Of
yeah,
course you
that's
are.
it for me.
I've actually been playing League of Legends recently. My friend showed it to me, and I simply just can't get enough. I mean, I know there's a bunch of spins off of it, like Heroes of New Earth and Dota 2, but I just think it's a completely awesome, like, sort of a fresh sort of genre of game. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it's an awesome way to just, I guess, utilize strategy in a different way than, I guess, in maybe like an RTS game, sort of like Command and Conquer, Supreme Commander. Like, it's a different type of strategy. I just think it's great. And some games that I'm looking forward to is you know, I've been looking at the BioShock series, and I just think that Infinite is going to be amazing. I mean, I've seen so much hype for it, and I've seen a lot of previews. I mean, it's pretty cool that last time I looked at BioShock Infinite for info, and it said like coming out in 2013, and it was about 2009. I mean, I felt really demotivated, but now it's really coming. I mean, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. No, it looks good. Another Meat Hands expansion. No, but it does look like a great game. Um, honestly, actually, before I get into what I'm gonna play, before we set the internet on fire, I just want to say that Defense of the Ancients was a Warcraft 3 mod, later taken on by League of Legends, etc. And that Dota 2, I'm gonna say, is actually the official kind of expansion of Dota. But you know, let's lay off Ares. He tries.
Yeah, don't flame
Other
him to
than
death.
that, what's that, Ekrat?
Don't flame him to death. Please don't.
Yeah, we have families. Other than that, yeah, I'm just playing a ton of Go. It's great to see the free weekend, so there's a lot more people to shoot in the face. Still getting into Guild Wars 2, finishing up the Halloween events. I'm going to try to do that jumping puzzle for the 10,000th time without dying. And I don't really know what I'm looking forward to. I mean, contrary to AdCredit, I think it's been a great year so far. A lot of great TF2 expansions, CS:GO, Guild Wars 2, a lot of good games. But yeah, I can't say I'm really looking forward to much. I mean, Dishonored, I think, well, you can't really look forward to that, but I'll probably try to get my hands on that. All right, thank you everybody for listening. I think we're gonna end it there. Say goodbye, Aries.
I had a great time, and I'll talk to you all later.
Say goodbye, AdCredit.
See you all next time.
And see you all next time. Goodbye.